The frozen expanse of the northern wastes stretched endlessly, a blinding white wilderness where wind cut through flesh and bone like sharpened knives. Yet amidst the merciless terrain, a lone human moved with a deliberate patience that belied the environment's hostility, a human whose very presence challenged the assumptions of every alien observer who had ever catalogued humanity as fragile, chaotic, and incapable of complex interaction with other species. The wolves, apex predators of these frozen lands, loomed around him in a semicircle, their coats thick, their eyes sharp, gleaming with raw intelligence and primal cunning, their instincts honed over generations of survival, and the aliens watching, creatures whose forms were alien geometry, translucent exoskeletons and segmented limbs, whose minds ran at speeds incomprehensible to human thought, had written off the human as foolish, expecting fear, retreat, and a failure that would confirm their assumptions about human inferiority. Yet the human, scarred from frostbite and minor skirmishes with rogue packs, stood undeterred, his gaze steady, his breath forming clouds in the freezing air, a subtle rhythm of observation and presence that taught more than words ever could. And he began the task with small, precise gestures, guiding the wolves with patience rather than force, understanding that dominance alone could never achieve the synchronization he sought. And for days they circled, growled, snapped, testing his limits and testing each other, until the human, unflinching in his calm, demonstrated an understanding of their language that transcended the physical, reading eyes, tails, ears, and posture, teaching the wolves to anticipate his movements and each other's, not through coercion, but through shared rhythm, a system of trust and observation. Slowly, imperceptibly, as the aliens monitored in disbelief, noting every action as if cataloging an anomaly in the rules of life, because the human seemed to convert fear and danger into method, transforming desperation into focus, and every minor mistake, every frost-numbed stumble was met not with punishment, but with redirection, encouragement, and repetition. A process that took the raw, solitary hunting instincts of the wolves and began to weave them into a coordinated understanding of cooperation, of timing, and of patience. And the aliens watched with calculated confusion as, day by day, the wolves' movements became more synchronized, less driven by blind hunger, and more by strategy and mutual awareness. And the human laughed quietly, a sound that carried over ice and wind, misinterpreted by the aliens as frivolity or weakness, when in truth it was confirmation, a subtle signal that understanding was emerging, a bond forming that no predator's instinct could break and no alien analysis could predict. And the nights were long, filled with cold and darkness, and yet the human persisted, building fires only where necessary, tending to injuries that the wolves had inflicted on one another or himself with equal patience, refusing all offers from alien intermediaries to commodify the wolves, to sell them for profit or weaponize their abilities, each refusal a statement, a moral boundary. And the wolves began to respond, testing not with aggression, but with calculated attention, waiting for cues, learning the difference between danger and opportunity, improvising together, communicating silently through subtle body language. And the aliens observed, their systems unable to quantify the evolution, their minds stumbling against a species that could teach, nurture, and elevate, not through domination, but through empathy, persistence, and understanding. Over weeks, the wolves' hunting exercises became increasingly complex, moving in patterns that no individual could master alone, anticipating one another's movements, flanking prey, setting traps, and acting as a cohesive unit guided only by the cues of a single human who moved with quiet authority, timing each gesture, each glance, each step, and even in moments of apparent failure,
when a wolf lunged too early or misjudged the trajectory of a prey animal, the human intervened subtly, redirecting, correcting, demonstrating, not punishing, until instinct was supplemented with foresight, raw power tempered with strategy, and what emerged was no longer simply wolves hunting for survival, but wolves capable of operating as a pack with the deliberate coordination and insight that only a human mind could cultivate through patience and care. And the aliens, calculating and recalculating, began to whisper among themselves, confused, intrigued, unable to reconcile that fear, risk, and danger had been converted into strength, that a species they had long dismissed as weak had harnessed primal instinct, fear, and survival drive into a force that defied prediction. And the human, frost-bitten fingers bleeding, lungs burning from cold, continued the process, feeding, guiding, correcting, speaking softly, laughing occasionally, a sound that became the rhythm of learning, the invisible metronome that synchronized mind and body across species. And gradually, subtly, the wolves began to act without direct command, anticipating prey, moving in fluid tandem, communicating through body language.
The pale dawn broke over the northern wastes, painting the ice in fragile shades of pink and silver, and the humans stood amidst the pack, frost coating hair and clothing, lungs burning with exertion, yet eyes sharp, unyielding, scanning not only the horizon, but the intricate signals passing between each wolf, subtle shifts in posture, glances, ear flicks, tail movements, everything a language born of instinct, elevated through weeks of patient teaching. And the aliens, observing from distant orbits, could not comprehend what they were witnessing, their multifaceted eyes failing to parse coordination that had been cultivated not through domination, not through control, but through guidance, trust, and an understanding of choice, the subtle weaving of fear and anticipation into power. And for the first time, the human gave a quiet signal, almost imperceptible, a tilt of the head, a shift of weight, and the wolves responded instantaneously, moving as one unit, flowing through the snow with silent, lethal precision, eyes scanning the terrain, calculating angles, wind, scent, and prey positioning, their movements perfectly synchronized, anticipation replacing reaction, instinct amplified by intelligence. And the human, heart-pounding, stepped back, allowing the pack autonomy, letting them decide, letting them act not under command, but by the lessons absorbed through observation, trust, and care. And in that moment, the aliens realized with dawning horror that humanity had done something they could not predict, could not model, could not understand. They had taught a species of predators to act collectively, strategically, and voluntarily, harnessing fear, risk, and instinct into an organic algorithm of coordination. And the pack, once solitary hunters, surged forward in a coordinated strike, taking down prey with efficiency and finesse, each movement echoing the patient, deliberate teaching of the human, each wolf making choices independently, yet in perfect harmony, a living testament to the power of human empathy, patience, and intellect. And when the prey fell, the human laughed softly, the sound carrying across the ice, not from triumph over death, but from recognition of understanding achieved, a melody of joy and affirmation that resonated with the aliens in a way that was impossible to quantify, a sound that shattered their assumptions, a signal that fear had been transformed into strength, that hesitation had become anticipation, that survival had become mastery. And as the wind swept across the tundra, carrying scents of snow, blood, and predator, the human moved among the wolves, tending minor injuries, offering warmth,
guiding subtly, never commanding, allowing each to act and learn and decide, reinforcing the bond that had been built over endless days of hardship, observation, and relentless patience. And the aliens, in stunned silence, began to understand that humanity's power was not in brute strength, not in technology, not in numbers, but in the ability to teach, to nurture, to elevate others through care, empathy, and insight. And in the wolves' autonomous action lay the purest proof. A species once fractured and solitary could act as one by choice, by trust, by the subtle lessons of humanity. And the human, watching, breath forming clouds in the icy air, smiled, knowing that victory, not in the taking of prey, but in the shaping of understanding, had been achieved. And in that realization, a philosophical truth revealed itself, not only to the wolves and to the human, but to the silent, observing galaxy. Fear, when harnessed, when guided by patience, compassion, and intelligence, did not weaken humans. It strengthened them, sharpened their minds, and allowed them to inspire, elevate, and unite others in ways that no cold calculation or alien logic could anticipate. And as the pack circled the human, their movements synchronized yet voluntary, eyes gleaming with awareness and respect, the aliens retreated in disbelief, their minds grappling with a species whose power lay not in domination, but in the capacity to transform fear into strategy, chaos into coordination, and instinct into choice, leaving behind a lesson echoing across the stars. Humans did not merely survive, they taught, nurtured, elevated, and inspired, and in doing so became a force that terrified and awed the galaxy in ways no weapon or conquest ever could. And the laughter of a human amid snow and predators, calm, knowing, and deliberate, became a symbol of the quiet, unstoppable strength that defined humanity. A reminder that patience, compassion, and the ability to inspire choice could bend nature, defy expectation, and leave an indelible mark upon the universe, proving, once and for all, that the human spirit was a force beyond prediction, beyond control, and utterly, irrevocably extraordinary.